So for quite a long time now, I've been thinking about making a video regarding early internet culture and what it was like to be there and how it's different from now. But I wasn't really sure what element I wanted to focus on until the other day on Instagram. I was talking to someone about friendships and how lately it seems to be really hard to find friends who you really genuinely click with, and who are more than just, Facebook friends or kind of occasional run into at club type friends, but the people who you know are genuinely there for you. Like if something awful goes wrong in your life, you don't even have to think about it. You pick up the phone, you know they'll be there, you know they get what's going on with you, and you have conversations that matter. And those sort of people, I've noticed for a few years now, there don't seem to really be many/any in my life. But I always thought that was just something to do with getting older. That, when you're in your 30s, people are tied up with their jobs and their kids and their husbands and all the rest of it. But the thing is, I talk to a lot of people on here and on Instagram who are having the same experiences, and they're really young. They're like teenagers and stuff. And I'm realising, actually, I don't think this is anything to do with my age. I think it's internet culture and the way it's changed. And I don't just mean this stereotypical kind of crap that goes round about, we all, when we go and hang out with our friends, we're not really present. We're there staring at our phones, and, the internet in general has destroyed socialising. It's destroyed our social skills. It's made us lonelier. That actually is a sack of crap. The internet as an entity is not a wholly innately evil thing that destroys social lives. And that is proved by the fact that if you are old enough to have been there in the beginning of the internet, you will know that it used to be a completely different place. So to give you some context, obviously we all know the internet that we've got now, where you communicate with your friends, and it's like, it'll either be Twitter, where you've got 240 characters to say something that matters. There doesn't seem to be like a privacy setting on Twitter, so whatever you say, you have to say to the whole world. Well, that's not really, conducive to deep, meaningful, private conversations. Then you've got Facebook, where the box you're writing in is this big, and so if you write anything long, the text gets cramped, so it's like a toilet roll of text, and it looks really long and obnoxious. So you're really only encouraged to write a smidgen of text. And on Facebook, you're encouraged to write about absolute nonsense, like, oh my God, the weather is terrible and I've just spilled a cup of tea. Does anyone care? No, but we still do it, don't we? Or you're encouraged to write all of your successes, the kind of stuff that you would put in a family Christmas card to summarise your year. Oh, I got a promotion, oh, there's a new baby, I got a new puppy. Lovely things, but the thing is, there's no depth to it. I mean, take new baby for an example. Somebody gets pregnant, they will show a picture of their baby scan, and it's all just, oh my God, we're having a baby, oh yay, and everyone says congratulations, and it's all of this. But you don't hear about any of the backstory to it. And the fact is, I don't think there are any pregnant women who go through all of their pregnancy without some kind of struggles. Whether that is a miscarriage scare, whether that is nausea and morning sickness that gets crippling, whether that is body image issues, stretch marks, feeling generally disgusting, constipation, all the other things that go along with it, and the hormonal fluctuations, the mood fluctuations, bladder control. There are so many things that go along with it that, honestly, you've got other women on your Facebook list. They're probably going through these things too. But God forbid you talk about it on Facebook. It has now become a complete faux pas on your friends list with your friends to talk about anything that matters. And my friend Jazz used to talk about this a lot. He had a lot of physical and mental health issues, but he would say, if I ever talk on Facebook about anything negative that's going on with me, my friends list immediately drops. People unfriend me for being a downer just because I'm talking about the truth of my life. And I found the same thing a couple of years ago, when I was a complete alcoholic crazy pants. Yes, lots of people unfriended me, and that's fair enough, mate. I would have unfriended me too. But the thing is, people you've known for years and years and years, they can see you acting in a way that is deeply out of character. There is clearly something going on with you, but rather than actually messaging you and saying, hey, I see you're acting out of character, something's clearly going on, do you want to talk about it? They just go, ooh, this makes me uncomfortable. Emotions. A friend I've known for years showing emotions in the sphere of Facebook. This is a faux pas, it's embarrassing, I feel awkward about this, I'm just going to ghost you. That's kind of the internet culture we live in now. And obviously you've got things like Instagram, where everyone's photos are face-tuned and everything looks glossy, and you only show pictures of the best bits of your life. And even if you have something negative to share on Instagram, like stretch marks or whatever, or you've gained some weight and you feel kind of ugly, well, you have to tint it through like a positive moral message thing. You know, you can take a picture of your stretch marks and your flabby belly, and you have to say, all of this is happening, but actually this is body positivity. I'm showing you don't have to be perfect to feel good, and actually I feel fine. I'm a strong woman. I feel fine with my stretch marks. Accept me as I am. And yes, it's great to have that message, but the fact is, a lot of the time you probably want to post that picture and say, I feel crummy about myself. Not everything is roses, and that's the honest truth. Does anyone else feel crummy about themselves? Do you want to have a meaningful discussion that might help us? No, it has to be a positive, uplifting, moral message. This is the internet we have now. So let's flash back right back to the beginning of the internet, when things were so very different. So for me, I first got on the internet quite early. As far as internet terms go, because my dad is a tech guy, I was on the internet every weekend that I was down there with him, checking out the early chat rooms and things like that. I would also go on chat rooms in lunch hour at school because I was taking graphics, and the graphics teacher really liked me, which is kind of a shame because my GCSE score was so bad I got an unclassified. Wow. But anyway, he still thought I was going to get a B at GCSE, so I was allowed into the graphics lab every lunchtime with my friends to work on my graphics assignment, i.e. go in chat rooms. And I still remember the very first chat room that ever worked, because bear in mind, this is like dial-up internet. This is you know, the dial-up noise, the classic unforgettable dial-up noise, and it was clunking, it was slow, it would break every 5 seconds, but on one particular lunch hour we managed to get a chat room to work. There was one person in there, we managed to exchange a few lines of text, and the first thing we said was like, where are you? Where are you from? And they were somewhere in America. And to us, this was mind-blowing. Like, we are speaking to a genuine, real, live American. Because, I mean, it sounds crazy now, right? But back then, you didn't have American friends. You didn't. Unless you had family over there, you didn't know any Americans. It seemed like a very long way away. It seemed like a very different country. Whereas now we basically think of Americans as being pretty much the same as us, just the same as Australia. We're pretty much the same as us, like cultural differences, but it doesn't seem far away, and we all have loads of American friends. But back then it was like, America. So the first thing we asked them was, what's the weather like there? Wow, America, you're in this other place. What's the weather like? What time is it? And I don't know that they've managed to reply to us because the computer broke at that point. But anyway, this was how excited we were, just at the prospect of speaking to a foreign stranger on the internet. But the point at which chat rooms really became this exciting thing for me was when I discovered the biggest, earliest goth chat room, which was called the Manson Dungeon. I have googled and googled trying to find a screenshot of this place. I can't find any, but it was basically just a very clunky chat room. I'll show you a picture of the kind of thing that a clunky old chat room would look like. But the Manson Dungeon, whenever you went in there would be between about 10 and 30 people. And the wonderful thing that you discovered round about this time was the anonymity of the internet. That, you know, and that sounds ironic now because obviously the internet at this point has destroyed anonymity. That, you know, you've got Facebook with your real names, you've got facial recognition software, you've got the fact you can Google absolutely anyone, you've got people with camera phones, so, you know, filming you, taking pictures of you when you're out in public, and the internet has murdered anonymity. But back then, the internet really was a text-based thing. You know, not many people had even photos of themselves on their computer because all cameras were film at that point. And, you know, and you'd have to use a scanner. Not many people had a scanner. Getting your pictures onto the computer was very difficult. And the internet was so slow loading. There were no videos and pictures were quite rare. A lot of people browsed with pictures shut off just so that it would be faster. So the internet was this very, very anonymous thing. And real names were not, you know, nobody used their real name on the internet. You didn't. You had your net handle. And if you were using a chat room, and say, I used to use Vampirella, was one of my earliest handles. So you could sign in and you could be Vampirella for a while. And if you upset someone or they didn't like you or something, you could log out, change your handle, log back in, you could be someone else completely. So it allowed you this amazing anonymity. And the thing that people realised very quickly, just like people realise with going to a therapist, that it is so much easier to talk to a stranger about your problems than it is to talk to a friend or a member of your family. And that was quite a new realisation around that time, that, you know, therapy was still, in this country anyway, was still kind of something that not many people did and you didn't really talk about. And people would often feel, well, why can't you just talk to your friends about this? Talk to your friends, your family about it like a normal person. You shouldn't have to go and pay a stranger to listen to you talk. But people were realising around this time it's easier to be honest with a stranger. And obviously with the internet, this was magnified even more because they weren't just a stranger. They were often a stranger in a foreign country who you need never speak to again, who would probably, you know, the minute their computer broke or whatever and they disappeared from the chat room, you probably would never see or hear from them ever again. And obviously you were behind a screen. They didn't know what you looked like. They weren't looking at you. You were just typing in text so you could think through what you were saying. You could phrase it right. And it was this incredibly therapeutic tool. Like, if you were like me, a kind of screwed up, lonely teenager, because, you know, I was still, like halfway through high school at this point. So it was before I'd started going out on the goth scene, before I had any real friends. And the level of isolation, this is something I want to talk about more specifically, the level of isolation prior to the internet. But really, you know, the TV in my house, we didn't have Sky or cable, so we had 4 channels of very, very boring mainstream TV. You know, and that was really your entertainment. That or books. I used to read a lot of books because what else have you got to do? And friend-wise, you go to school, and if you're the bullied kid at school, you don't know anyone. You've got no friends. It felt like no one has ever understood me in my life, and I don't think anyone ever is. And that was kind of how it was before the internet. That, you know, if you were in a small town, it was quite likely that no one in your world understood you at all, and you felt like an alien. You felt like a literal alien. No one understands me. I don't understand these people. And then the internet came along, and there's this absolute anonymity, this absolute freedom to talk to people about your problems. And in the Moston dungeon, this goth chat room, most of the people were these kind of messed up kids discovering, just as I was, that, oh my God, check this out. People who get us, and we can just spill our guts, spill our souls, and if we embarrass ourselves, well, we'll just log out and come back with a different handle, and then we can be a different person. You know, you can just erase all your mistakes. There was one slightly embarrassing incident revolving around the Moston dungeon. I was using it at my gran and granddad's house with my dad. I was on my dad's laptop. I hated it there, as many people do if you're an only child in that situation, and you're stuck at your gran and granddad's with your dad. You know, your dad and your granddad are talking about peps and tessers and money. Your grandma's just not on your level at all, and you're sat there just wanting the ground to eat you because you're so bored. It hurts. But then I had the Moston dungeon. You know, even in the middle of this room where you just want to peel off your skin because you feel so alone, you have this window out of there. You have this port to other people, and it was like having this secret box full of friends supporting you wherever you were. So I was being very honest that night with my first internet friend. I don't know him today. I never even found out what his real name was, but I still remember his handle. His handle was Zap25. Zap25 was always on the Manson dungeon. We'd exchanged emails, so we talked a lot. But I was talking to Zap that night about all of this, and I was a self-harmer at this point. I was talking about, God, I'm just so done with being here. I just want to cut myself open, or whatever I was saying. I'm just so sick of being here. And the thing with those early internet chat rooms, they didn't refresh automatically. You had to hit the refresh button to get the new replies up, which meant that every page of replies was a new page in your history. You see where I'm going with this, don't you? If you weren't a tech person and the internet was brand new, you didn't know about clearing your history. So anyway, this goes on, you know, go to bed. I go home, back to my mum's, and it was about 2 days later. I think it was a Tuesday, and I think I was eating breakfast, getting ready to go to school, and my mum came in and said, "Your dad is very worried about things that you've been saying in that internet chat room." Obviously, I freeze inside, realising my dad has spent hours and hours stalking through page upon page upon page of my private conversations, which is just the kind of thing he does. He bought me a locking diary when I was a kid and insisted I kept the keys with the diary, and then told me off for things I wrote in my locking diary. But anyway, I responded to my mum and said, "Well, it's not my fault what other people say in the chat room, can't be held responsible for that." And she was like, "Well, apparently it wasn't the things they were saying, it was the things you were saying that were actually worrying them." Shit bricks, go to school in an awful mood. Never forget to clear my history ever again since then. But anyway, returning to the point. Yes, it was the openness and the anonymity. You felt you could talk to anyone about anything, and and friendships would become quite intense quite quickly. And it was a very pure sort of friendship because there were no pictures or anything like that. Generally speaking, it would take ages to get even one picture in your computer. So you'd maybe have one grainy, cruddy little headshot to show people. But in general, appearance was not a part of it. It was literally just your personality that you were exchanging. And then when social media came along, the first form of social media, no, it wasn't MySpace. MySpace was later. And I never really got into it. I never saw the point of MySpace. The first real social media was diary sharing. So the big one, and the one that I had, was LiveJournal, but there was also Diaryland. I think there may have been something else similar. But basically they were diary sharing platforms. So to talk about LiveJournal, which as I say was the one that I was on, LiveJournal, when you wrote your posts, the box you were writing in, it was this big. It wasn't like, a Twitter or a Facebook window this big. You're only encouraged to write 2 lines of text. No, the thing you were writing in was this big. Again, there were no real pictures or anything. People didn't post pictures. It was all text. You were encouraged to write long pages of text. I don't think there was even a limit on how much you could write. You could write and write and write and write and write. You could hide it under cuts if you wanted to keep bits private. If there was anything you were saying that people, saying this is going to be depressing, you can skip over if you want. You could do that. You could post on public. You could post on friends. You could have custom friends lists, which were very easy to create, unlike Facebook. Or you could post privately. So if you had like a journal entry that was genuinely just a journal entry for you, you could post it on private. But your friends would all be on this, and the culture of the internet at that point was that people literally wrote in these things like they were their diaries. It wasn't about trying to one-up people on how perfect your life was. It was brutal honesty, and people's attention spans then as well was so much better because there wasn't, all these adverts all over the internet. There wasn't all the, the videos and the pictures and the quick kind of attention grabbing things. You were quite happy to sit there and read pages upon pages of your friends' diaries because what other entertainment did you have really at that point? My attention span, I've noticed, has changed so much since I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, there were hardly any books that I picked up and didn't finish. You know, any book, no matter how weirdly it was written, no matter how long it was, I would read the thing. I used to watch a lot of foreign kind of art house cinema, and I would get through it. I never didn't finish a film. You know, I'd start it, and even if it was a bit weird, I'd finish it. Whereas now, I've tried to read and watch some of the same things that I read and watched when I was a teenager. I can't get through them anymore. My attention span is like, it has to be glossy Hollywood cinema, or it has to be a really gripping, riveting, page-turning book. Or I can't do it anymore. You know, because we're so used to just like scrolly, oh, quick thing. We can't do it anymore. But back then, you would read pages and pages of your friends' diaries, brutal honesty, and you could reply to everything. You know, I don't think there were any like buttons or anything. I think you literally, if you had something to say, you said it. If you didn't, you didn't say anything. But the main thing was the way that this level of honesty bled over into your actual conversations with your friends. That at this point, this was about 2001, so I was 16 and I was a part of the goth scene by then. So every weekend I would see my friends at the pub on Thursday and then at the club on Friday. But all week long, you've been reading your friends' journal entries about, you know, everything that's going on with them. So if you've been reading that, like, you know, on Wednesday they were completely suicidal, or there's some big drama going on with their parents and it's making them want to kill themselves or whatever, and you've been responding to these posts, and a lot of these things, that they weren't things that necessarily you would be able to start a conversation about in, you know, face to face, even though you know these people really well. Face to face is a lot harder, you know, to just go up to your friend and start talking about really deep, dark shit. It's hard. But when you've been hiding behind a screen and writing it in text, and it's so easy to just purge your feelings in text, and they write back feeling the same way. But then when you do see them on the weekend, they often would. You'd just dive into the same stream of conversation you'd been having on LiveJournal. So every conversation you had with people, yeah, you know, people did still have fun, jokey conversations. It wasn't all doom and gloom. But it was very honest that, you know, you knew what was actually going on with everyone, and you would talk about that, and conversations felt so much more rewarding. Whereas these days, by harsh contrast, Facebook emotional constipation culture, I don't know how else to put it, it really is, it's bleeding over into the ways we interact. And I feel like a lot of my friendships have died over the last few years because I can't stand small talk. I can't stand it when there's someone who I used to know inside out, and now all I see from them on Facebook is like a roll call of their latest successes and all the kind of stuff you'd tell a hairdresser. You know, oh, I had a lovely holiday recently. Oh, getting a nice job promotion. All the nice things. But you don't hear about any of the stuff. And even when it's something like a success, like a job promotion, well, there's a lot of struggle behind that. There might be some dark stuff behind that. Like, I am so glad to get out of this previous job because I was being sexually harassed by my boss, or because the workload was making me want to kill myself. And I can't wait to get out of that. You don't hear about all of that stuff. It's all just that, oh, polish my little trophies. That's all we can talk about. And I would, you know, with my ex-best friend, I just remember feeling this growing distance every time I would see him, that, you know, we used to have these incredibly deep, meaningful conversations, and I would know there was stuff going on behind the scenes, but it was like we couldn't pierce through this weird new bubble of Facebook faux pas that you don't talk about real stuff. You don't talk about that. We've all just become so used to this only things you can talk about on Facebook. And obviously if you do see friends, and maybe other people converse differently, you know, I do have Asperger's, therefore my conversational techniques may not be perfect, but in general, if I'm gonna see someone, I might go and check out their Facebook, see what's been going on. So there are some conversation starters. When I see them, I can ask them about what they've mentioned on Facebook. Oh, you mentioned you got a new sofa. How's the new sofa? But I mean, that literally is the level of the things you're talking about, compared to in the early 2000s when it would be real things that mattered. Like, oh, I hear you just got out of hospital after a bit of a suicide disaster on Sunday. How's that going? And you know, I'm not some kind of like voyeuristic grief pervert or something. I don't only want to talk about miserable stuff, but I can't stand it when I come home from a night out socialising with people and I feel like I haven't learned anything about anyone. I feel like I haven't connected on any deep level. I feel like there's been just nothing, just nothing, just bubble wrap, you know. That's what it feels like. Whereas back then, social media was so much more open. And yeah, obviously along with that there is the death of the attention span, that, as I say, people were willing to read whole pages of text by their friends just waffling about how they were feeling, and you would get lengthy, well thought out replies from people, and you know, there was conversation. And much as I love the internet in its current incarnation, I love Instagram and I love YouTube and all the things that are like junk food for your brain, that I think all of us, when you have like a spare 5 minutes and you pick up your phone knowing you're just going to go and like scroll around in your apps, there is like a real kind of comfort food feeling, isn't there? There's like, yes, pictures, people complimenting me, nice pretty pictures, and all the rest of it. We get this real kind of like feel good feeling picking up our phone, but it's like junk food versus exercise. It's like the short-term reward, but with like a long-term decline in your attention span, in your friendships, in the meaningfulness of your interactions, versus like exercise, you know, reading long things and all of this, which is not good in the short term. It's not enjoyable, but in the long term, it's much nicer. But we are all basically laboratory rats, and we all like the short term, you know, the rapid instant buzz. But yes, attention spans. I really do resent the thing on Facebook that, you know, if you write anything too long, it has the continue reading thing where people have to click into a whole new window to read your waffle. And yes, it squashes the text to make it look even longer. And you feel like an absolute obnoxious asshole for having something to say that's more than 4 lines long. When these days, you know, nobody really phones each other anymore, do they? We don't phone each other anymore, and I feel like even Skype is kind of, and FaceTime and things are drifting out of fashion a little bit. That we don't, you know, we only want to do it when we're looking perfect, and we only really do it with people who live far away. If they live far away, we'll Skype with them, but for most of our friends in the local area, Facebook is you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that's how we communicate with each other. But we're made to feel that we're being obnoxious if we write more than this much. We get instantly ghosted if we talk about problems and say anything that's like a downer. That it has become this huge faux pas to be real and to be honest about anything, unless, as I say, you put it in some kind of uplifting, motivational talk thing that, you know, if you have anything miserable to say, it has to be all hashtag mental health awareness. Why can't you just have a bad day and talk about having a bad day without it having to have some kind of bloody like positivity hashtag attached to it? Why can't we just communicate as people without feeling that we have to package it up into some sort of personal representation? Oh, this is a movement I can get behind. No, it's not a movement. It's just you having a bad day, and your friends should be able to communicate with you rather than just saying, oh, well done for raising awareness. They're not trying to raise awareness. They're just trying to talk to you and have a conversation. We can't do it anymore. No. The concept doesn't register, does it? The concept of just having an honest conversation with your friends. But so yes, I suppose to wrap this up, because I've waffled for quite a long time. Yes, please. I mean, I have seen friends try to bring back LiveJournal, try to drag us back to LiveJournal. It's never really happened. You know, when a thing's dying, it's dying, and there's not much you can do about it. But I do recommend, you know, bring this up with people on your Facebook, and say, look, I feel like it's been a really long time since any of us had a genuine conversation on here. For the younger ones amongst you, maybe you've never had a genuine online interaction with someone that's honest And maybe you do just believe that the internet has always been this toxic, shallow, meaningless, isolation-enhancing crap storm. But it hasn't, and it shouldn't be, and it didn't used to be. So yes, do talk to people, make a post on Facebook, share this video if you want, but make a post on Facebook and just say, I'm going to be honest, we shouldn't, why are we all flouncing around here pretending that nothing more happens to us in a day than an amusing anecdote involving spreading toothpaste on our toast by accident, and the neighbour outside knocking over a bin with their car, oh, that was a bit funny, and here's some random good news that I'm not going to give you the backstory to, I'm just going to give you the polish my little trophy bit. Well, if we're actually friends here, if any of you are actually friends, let's have an actual friendship discussion, let's try and have a meaningful connection, because otherwise what is the point of any of it? Well, social media, friends, likes, friends, all these positive words, and yet people, everyone is treating their social media as though they are some sort of celebrity building a brand. I mean, literally, that's what it is, isn't it? It's like you post your best pictures, you tell your funniest anecdotes, and you talk about your successes. And it's like you're trying to build a brand. And fair dues, a lot of people are trying to build some kind of brand. You know, most people are dabbling in something these days with Instagram and things. But equally, whoever you are, even if you are someone who's trying to build a brand, the likelihood is that you have some kind of semi-private account where you have real life friends, and at that point we shouldn't all be behaving like we are trying to sell ourselves as a package with our friends. It's mental. So do try and begin dialogues. Maybe if you want to begin in this video, tell everybody what is actually going on in your life. What is actually going on? Is there anything that you want to get off your chest with all the wonderful semi-anonymity of the internet? Say things, and I don't really have much that I don't say. I think I am a bit of a dinosaur relic when it comes to these things, that or maybe I'm just an Aspergian oversharer. I don't know, because if there's something going on with me, you tend to know about it. I'm not very good at keeping secrets, which is why I always find it quite funny. Tangent, but I do find it quite funny when I get comments on my videos, particularly if I'm going out clubbing. I'm always quite hyperactive when I'm going out clubbing, and I'll get comments being like, oh, I think he's still doing drugs. I think he's actually still doing loads of drugs. This is really sad. It's like, honey, when have I ever not been completely open about these things? If I was high, I'd probably bounce in and be like, I'm really high right now, because I don't know how to not overshare. So, but anyway, yes, if I have things to say, I tend to say them. I encourage other people to do the same. And yes, if you are seeing people in reality, and you feel we're sitting here, we are friends, we have been friends for a long time, and yet we are sitting here chatting bubbles, nothing real is coming out of anyone's mouth, and I'm going to go home feeling completely empty, and then I'm probably not going to be very encouraged to see you again in the future, which is kind of the way that my friendships have died. It might be a thing to just bring it up and say, I feel like we haven't had an honest discussion in a long time. I feel like Facebook and all of this, it's poisoning us, and it's pushing us further apart, Anna, so I'm going to start. Here's what's really going on with me. Then it's your turn. Let's have an actual talk. And I intend to do that, whoever I next inflict my company on. But yes, if anyone else has ways they have managed to destroy all this crap in their lives and get back to having an honest, deep, meaningful connection with people online or offline, and actually feeling that your friendships aren't just there because they friend added you a few years ago, and you've kind of got used to seeing each other on Facebook, and sometimes they tell a funny joke about their cat. But yes, if you have solutions to this, tell me things. I'm going to shut up, because I've talked for a very, very long time indeed. But yes, the old internet used to be a very open and friendly and brutally honest place where you shared your literal diary with people. That was social media, sharing your diary. And now, I don't think any of us even know how to keep a diary. We are so used to bottling up everything and just talking meaningless crap. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to start writing diaries again. Even if we don't share them with people, maybe we need to start writing them and actually working out what is going on in my life. What am I actually thinking about? Because I think diaries are something that has died too, because we spend too much time on our phones doing crap. We have forgotten how to kind of navel gaze, and a bit of navel gazing I think is good for the soul. Anyway, this is forever long now, so I'm going to go away. But yes, I probably will make other videos about early internet and things that I remember, because it was an amazing thing. And yes, the depths of isolation that people experienced before the internet is something that I am actually quite glad of, because I never would have read so many books. You know, if I had grown up in this era where there is so much fun stuff to do, never would have read so many books, and I'm glad I did. So sometimes being bored, alone and miserable is good for you. And with that strange thought, I will literally shut up. Bye-bye.